YouTube. Lucas here, bringing you another video on the Fantasy Football Perspective. Here we are, weekly series, sleeper starts, sleeper sits. We're entering week 4. Yes, week 4 already of that NFL season. This is a series where I break down, those fringe flex plays of each week, and if I think these players should either A, enter your lineup, or B, sit out of your lineup. This isn't those cookie cutter rankings where they tell you, Alvin Kamara is going to be a top 5 back and Derrick Henry is going to be top 5 back. No, this is my perspective on who I think those fringe players are going to pop off or do nothing. That's what wins you your weeks. Picking those right flex players, getting you those extra points. That's how you end up on top on a week-to-week basis. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop some questions down beneath. I know I've been getting a little bit of traction with questions on my previous Sleeper Starts and Sleeper Sits video, but drop your questions below. I'll be happy to answer them as in depth as I can. Without further ado, hit that intro. All right, let's dig in. Sleeper starts, sleeper sits, week 4 of the NFL season. Welcome to the channel. Before we get going, I think we should take a look at the league leaders for this 2021-2022 season so far and just give some shout outs to some players that were either on my radar or off my radar that are just super, super high performers and maybe some surprise performers 3 weeks into the season. I think we got to start off with Mr. Tom Brady up there, second in QB numbers, fantasy numbers so far through the season with 87, right before Kyler Murray, the GOAT of fantasy football, in my opinion, and Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady so far has had an MVP season. I'd like to see that keep going. That's a shout out I want to give. Another surprising fantasy football person so far is Derek Carr. He's been tearing it up, 71 points on the season, and his yards are just insane. He's already thrown for 1,203 yards. He's on pace for something like 6,600 yards. Insane pace. Shout out Derek Carr. Running back worlds. Well, I think the biggest surprise in fantasy football so far is DeAndre Swift. He was off the board of a lot of people, including myself. I just didn't think their offense would click like this. They're playing, I know they're 0-3, but man, they've been in every single game. DeAndre Swift's tearing it up. He has 19 receptions in 3 games, 166 yards and a touchdown, which is crazy. 33 rush attempts, 123 yards and a touchdown. These receptions are just sending him over the edge. I know he might be first or second. I think he's second in reception so far. I guess we can see. Yes, and that's with Najee Harris just completely turning the fantasy football community over last week with 14 receptions. So, yes, that's pretty crazy. DeAndre Swift, you're doing great so far. And we got to give a shout-out to Cordarrelle Patterson. There's no way this dude was on anyone's radar, but he's coming in. 49 fantasy points. He's already an RB1. Top 8 so far. Getting the catches. He brings a different element to that Atlanta offense. Some spark out of that backfield. Some speed around the corner. Just an outstanding performance so far by Cordarrelle Patterson. Austin Eckler, I told you all, I was high on Austin Eckler this year, and he's producing a top 5 fantasy football season so far. Really, he's real close to a top 3. I think that's where he finishes at, if I'm being honest. I think this is what's getting him a lot. His receptions are going up each week. 15 receptions, 113 yards, 1 touchdown. I just saw a stat that the Chargers are throwing the ball 70% of the time. So expect that number to continue for Mr. Austin Eckler. Wide receivers. Look at these top 2. Cooper Kupp and Mike Williams are going insane so far. And this just isn't one game. This is consistent 20-point fantasy football games that you're getting from a 5th or 4th, 5th, 6th round player, a 7th, 8th, 9th round player. Adam Thielen was dropping to the 4th and 5th round sometimes. Deebo Samuel was dropping to the 4th and 5th, maybe 6th round sometimes. Jamar Chase is up there, touchdown every game. There have been some very, very, very good production from the later round receivers. Makes me kind of regret going 0 RB in a couple leagues when I could have snagged these guys later on the rounds. But I'm just doing a test and see how it ends out this year. But when you have players producing like this, it's a little bit crazy. Not to mention Brandon Cooks here. 32 targets on the air. He has to be top 5, I was going to say. Yeah, he's top 4. He was one of my sleeper sits of the week that I completely messed up on. I just thought that, he had 14 targets the game before last, and the top other target on his team only had 2. It just made me think that the defense was going to, double team him, take him out of the game, and make someone else beat them. But nope, he still got all of his targets. Some surprises this year are those players, but DJ Moore. I slandered this guy each year. I thought he was overrated. He's finally coming into his own. He's getting the targets. He's not just a deep threat, and he's producing big, big numbers. Shout out DJ Moore. Just insane seasons by these guys so far. Their ADP's on there. I just recognized that. 112. Mike Williams, 125. Cole Beasley, 181. All producing wide receiver 1 numbers 3 games into the season. Tight ends, what we got here, a little bit out of order. Travis Kelce leading the league again. Surprise, surprise, 67 points. He would be the 3rd ranked receiver. Rob Gronkowski up there, 58. Kind of a little bit of a slower week this week, I think. He had 9 points, still good. I expect the snap percentage to keep lowering as the season goes on. Hawkinson, just like DeAndre Swift, I wasn't very high on Hawkinson just because I didn't think his offense would produce anything. And there he is, producing those numbers. Darren Waller, my man. Waller the baller, having a great season. And someone you don't see on the list all the way down here is Kyle Pitts. I told y'all, don't draft Kyle Pitts expecting super high production. It takes these rookie tight ends a while to get up into fantasy football production. You take him 32nd overall. That's an early late 3rd round pick. And look at all these other players you could have got after him that are producing better than him. Again, short sample size so far, but facts are facts. And I expect his trend to get a little bit better, but I do not expect him to finish up here in the top 5. Defense, I actually don't know who the best fantasy football defense is. The New Orleans Saints, good. I was super high on New England. They're up there in the top 6. I think these are probably the best defenses as far as turnovers so far. Sacks. Surprised the Browns aren't up here after last week's performance. Yep, they're right there. They had 9 sacks after last week. No, a lot of leagues right now don't play with defense, but this is a common trend. I just like to pay attention to it and see what's going on. It seems like New Orleans is the one that's scoring the touchdowns off the turnovers. So, pay attention to that. Flyers on defensive side of the field. If New Orleans becomes available in your league, I would snatch them up because they seem to be producing. All right. Without further ado, we're going to get into the sleeper starts and sits of the week. We are going to start with my first sleeper start of the week, and that is Mr. Brandon Aiyuk, San Francisco 49ers. And this is why I think he's startable. It is because he, ladies and gentlemen, is finally out of the doghouse. Goes from 47% snap percentage, 54% snap percentage, 86% snap percentage. He's going to start seeing 5 or more targets a game. Hopefully these yards go up. I wasn't a big fan of Green Bay's offense at all for these receivers last week. But as this snap percentage keeps staying steady, I expect bigger lines. I think this 11 points will end up being his floor by the end of the season. I think he's always going to get you around 11 to 20 points. And if that snap percentage keeps staying up that high, expect big weeks from Brandon Aiyuk moving forward. He had 3 red zone targets as well, which is important for, fantasy football upside. So, Brandon Aiyuk, first sleeper start of the week. Sleeper star of the week number 2, and I don't know how much of a sleeper this is anymore, but Cordarrelle Patterson. Goes from 33 snap percentage a couple weeks. He scored 23 off a 33 snap percentage, which is extremely efficient. But then he produces a 42% snap percentage and shoots for 16. I love these numbers right here. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 82 yards, 7 attempts for 20 yards. That's a little low, obviously. But these are going to be consistent for this Atlanta Falcons offense because they are constantly going to be playing from close games or from behind. I don't think they're ever going to be in a position where they're way ahead and, they're just handing the ball off to run some time, which that's when Mike Davis is going to be the most effective. They play Washington next week. Washington is very suspect to outside the tackle runs. That's where they seem to struggle. I mean, their defensive ends love to get pressure up the field, which makes them suspect to, run right in their gap that they're trying to get pressure in these outside runs. And Cordarrelle Patterson does that a lot better than Mike Davis. So I expect Cordarrelle Patterson to do well again. Next week, I'm calling, 12 to 15 points, maybe find the end zone. I like him a lot. This week or this coming week, Washington just gave up a shit ton of points to the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they're going to produce those kind of numbers, but I do expect a big performance from Cordarrelle Patterson and the fantasy football world. Sleeper start number 3 is Mr. Chase Claypool. Simple, ladies and gentlemen. No one else on that receiving core is healthy. Juju got hurt. Deontay sat out, and look what happens when that happens. 15 targets, 9 receptions, 10 yards a catch, 92% snap percentage, 18.60 without scoring a touchdown. That is production, ladies and gentlemen. Najee Harris and Chase Claypool seem to be the only people getting targets on that offense. I expect the same thing. They have Green Bay coming in. I know one of my rules is don't play receivers going against Jair Alexander. My prediction is either Juju or Deontay gets back for this game, kind of takes them out of it, and leaves Claypool one-on-one on the other side. Chase Claypool, ladies and gentlemen, is going to have a big week, and I like his upside. Take it or leave it. That is just my perspective. All right, let's go into our sleeper sits of the week. First sleeper sit of the week was actually a sleeper star of the week for me last time. He was one of my touchdown calls of the week, Javonte Williams, and he delivered. He got me a touchdown. The issue with Javonte Williams is this makes fumble number 2 at the goal line so far in his young career, where they've been at the the 2-3 yard line, and they either fumble it into the end zone or fumble it and the other team just recovers it. This happened in the preseason to Javonte. We thought he had a touchdown. Actually, turned out he fumbled it before. Problem with Javonte is he is just not very efficient so far. 2.42 yards per carry. It's just not great. Not great stuff, ladies and gentlemen. He does get some targets, which is nice to see. He did find the touchdown, but let's be honest. Anyone who watched that game saw how much harder Melvin Gordon runs the rock. Melvin Gordon didn't really do much in the yards per carry game, but the dude runs through people left and right. He should have had another touchdown. Javonte should have had another touchdown. He had 6 more carries than Javonte Williams last week. This is a full-on split. They're going to feed the hot hand. I just don't feel comfortable gambling that Javonte is going to take it over now, especially going against a very good Baltimore Ravens defense. So, first sleeper sit of the week, I am going to sit Javonte Williams this week. Second sleeper sit of the week is Chris Carson. And I'm a big trend guy. I like looking at 3-game trends, and the snap percentage is getting lower and lower. and they're getting ready to play, the best or the second best front seven that they've played so far this year. And I think this is going to be a game script where the Seattle Seahawks want to throw the ball more than run the ball because they have so many, the 49ers have so many injuries in their secondary. Norman got hurt. Their other corner got hurt. They're very, very, very injured in the San Francisco 49ers secondary, which is, I think the Seahawks are just going to take advantage of that. I think Chris Carson could get some catches, but if you look at the numbers 2 and 3 so far, didn't even have a target in game 2. It's just not something I would rely on. If I have better options out there, I would probably go with that this week against the San Francisco 49ers defense. And this is someone I just can't figure out. Juicy matchup against Houston, Devin Singletary. The snap percentage is going down. Zach Moss's is going up. Zach Moss has looked better since he's got more playing time. I'm scared this is going to turn into a situation where they each get a series and whoever looks better during that series is going to play the majority of the snaps. I just don't trust that he's going to look better. I just don't. Zach Moss looks like he's kind of taking over that backfield slowly but surely. He just runs harder. He has better, burst after contact. I just think they're going to raise Moss's usage. I don't have any particular statistics. I've just watched both games, and from an outside fan, I have no affiliation to the Bills. I'm not a particular fan of the Bills. From an outsider, I just really think that Zach Moss is the better running back, and it's slowly showing. And I think it's just slowly going to turn into Zach Moss's backfield week by week. Take it or leave it. This was a quicker episode, but I don't really have much insight this week. Those are my sleeper starts and sleeper sits. Like I said, drop a comment below. Ask me your start and sit questions. If you have some fringe guys that you're curious about, I'll give you my opinion on them. Hope you all had a great fantasy week. Won your matchups. I hope some of my insight may have helped you out. Like the video, share the video, hit that subscription if you haven't. As always, this is my perspective. Hope you all have a great night. Peace.